What's everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the TEN SEVEN MMA Show. We are so sorry, first and foremost, for the changes. I know we're early in the morning because I was flying. You guys saw me on my layaway. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Make a quick video about the Arman Tsarukyan and what's going on there. Then I got back on my flight, landed a little bit late here. We were supposed to be on 15 or 20 minutes actually earlier. But again, we had to do the show. Traveling. So what's up, everybody? Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just enjoying this cold weather. Hopefully you have a good connection. You've broken up a little bit. I don't know if it's you or me or probably both of us are in the same building.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, hopefully it says 3 bars. I'm hoping that Tehran, what's up? Loyal came to the show. Even we had all time changes. We really appreciate it. Yeah, man. Things are the connection hopefully is okay. Let us know if it goes in and out. We are back.
I'm going to try to connect to the internet. I'm going to try to connect to the internet.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
No.
Oh yeah. They should have. Oh wait, look at that, Charles Oliveira. Oh, they should have had him as a backup. I wonder why they didn't. That's very interesting. Somebody said Michael Chandler tweeted is in LA and was apparently people were saying, hey, is he going to stand Dariush? But I think they just pulled the Dariush fight. When I last looked, and Tehran, you always know the stuff better than me. But when I last looked, they had moved up the Spivak versus was it Jelton Almeida? I can't remember. I think that fight got moved up right now. But anyways, what's up? We are on the one of the craziest changes I've ever seen. Now, of course, we see a UFC 300. We had the last minute change of, or not, sorry, UFC 302 or 303, whatever. Conor McGregor was pulled out, and we had Alex Pereira jump. That was a big change. But this is pretty crazy. This is the day before. This isn't the week before. This isn't 2 weeks before. This is the day before, and they announced it right before the weigh-ins that the main event was falling apart. And then now they added somebody else in who's a fan favorite, and we're going to talk about that in a second. If you didn't see my video, I talked about why I'm so very excited about this fight. And now everything's going ahead as, you know, for the most part, as says, yes, I'll forward to the Moicano Dariush fight. I was too. Oops, what's going on? Wait, let us know, Tehran, if our internet's not great. I'm on the hotel Wi-Fi, so I don't know, but it does seem to be a little. But anyway, that fight too. But it is what it will. We'll see what goes down. All right, Justin, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into the topics before we got to roll out and get to the face-offs for the Fusion Fight League event going. I already talked about this whole thing. I made a video about Arman Tsarukyan pulling out, apparently due to a back injury. I assume that was not through the weight cut. Now, I've heard multiple people say 2 things. One, that he had very stiff movement at the press conference, which I did not notice and barely talked. So maybe that injury probably was already there. I also saw in UFC Embedded that when he was hitting the bag, he was like boom, boom, slow motion, like throwing shots. So I thought maybe he's warming up. I like to throw shots like that when I'm warming up. I'm sure you too, before you've really stretched, you know, just to get your muscles and the blood flowing. But we have noticed that. What do you think went down from your fighting experience? You know, does that happen sometimes? A fighter has an injury, but they're hoping it gets better. They don't say anything until the very last minute. How do you think it all went down?
Man, it's tough to say. I even saw a video saying that he was trying to impress Nina Drama, and by doing some acrobatics and hurt his back that way. So right now we have a lot of rumors circulating. I think it's really selfish if he got hurt, you know, a week or 2 ago, and you know, kind of like with, I mean, that he just messed up somebody else's opportunity, and now Moicano has to get in there, and he's going to get smoked. Like, I just don't like how the whole thing was handled, and there's a lot of speculation. So I guess in the next coming days we'll find out.
Man, oh man, yeah, it's crazy, and people are pretty upset too. I'm gonna try and move.
Am I broken at all?
I think it's. I think no, you're not. I think, but my connection, I don't know. It seems to be low on the bars. I'm gonna see if I can move, and maybe it'll get better. But anyways, so it's very unfortunate because this was a really I think a nice even match. People that this is probably Islam's toughest test in the division. And unfortunately, it's not going down, which is a huge bummer. However, one thing that I am happy about is Moicano's a star. Moicano's a stud. Moicano is hilarious. And I don't really think, okay, we'll talk about how they match up fighting wise in a second. But from the perspective of Moicano's star power and how funny he is and all that stuff, are you still excited?
Not really. Excuse me, sorry about that. Not really, and just in the sense is I just think he's so outmatched and overclassed in everything. I mean, he's incredible on the mic, but here's the thing. He's kind of a comedian. He's a jokester, man, and I really appreciate it. But Islam is the real deal. That guy doesn't make jokes. He doesn't poke fun. You know, I saw a video about Islam and Habib this morning about how basically in order to be to where they're at, they have to sacrifice everything, including being a family guy. And Habib says that. He's like, you want to be a family guy? I respect that, but you're not going to be a champion, and you're not welcome to train with us. You know, like he had this Mexican fighter come out and say something along like he's like, okay, he wanted to go back to Mexico for like a birthday or something, and Habib's like, no, like if you go back, you're not welcome back here. You need to sacrifice everything in order to be. So when I look at Moicano, who is an incredible fighter, he has great star power, he's funny, but then you look at someone like Islam, who literally every aspect of his life is fighting and winning. And like there is no losing in that gym. Nobody's gonna beat him. Their team is too serious. I've been around guys that are serious, and then there's guys like Islam who are above that. You know, like to me, Sean Strickland is very serious. He outtrains everybody, but he still does other things. He still has hobbies inside and out of the gym. Islam's hobbies are training, and even if he doesn't want to train, he has to train.
Yes.
And that's the difference maker. I just don't think. And again, when I'm not saying Moicano isn't serious about fighting, that's not what I'm saying. But there's serious, and then there's everything I do and breathe and sleep is fighting. And 99% of fighters, you know, like you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady talked about this, about how everything else, there's nothing else besides football to him. There's nothing. He doesn't. He sacrifices family time. I mean, look, he wasn't giving enough time to his wife because of football, and she ended up cheating on him with a grappling instructor. And you know that those a lot of times go side by side. You know, I know a lot of girlfriends of mine that are married that you know they you know get away from their husband because that they're not giving him enough time. Now imagine someone like Islam who everything besides fighting is secondary, including his mom, including his dad, including his family, his cousins. Like he has to train and he has to win, and to have that kind of mentality is that, and that's why he's nearly unbeatable.
The reason why I was smiling when you said that is because I love hearing that stuff. I feel like I have to take similar routes in my, you know, for my life. I didn't like devote my whole life to one thing, let's say necessarily like these guys did, but I've had to go to those shutout periods where you're doing 16, 15 hours a day of only roughly the same thing or all towards the same. And I feel like that I love seeing other people do that and see the power that you can extract when you hone in like that extra 20% or 15% of time. And then you unlock these like magical secrets. Cool to me. Now, just from a technical standpoint, I need to hear your thoughts because you're obviously the expert. So I don't feel like there's anywhere where Moicano has an advantage. I've heard other people say the exact same thing. So I don't even think. Well, barring some crazy injury or something, I don't see how he has a path to victory. Do you agree, or do you is a route to victory?
Bro, like he's gonna have to get lucky. Maybe hit him with like just close his eyes and start winging punches when he's in range. I mean, he's gonna out wrestle him. Are you kidding me? We're talking about a guy that's gonna be comfortable going up to welterweight to wrestle Bilal. Moicano isn't known for just this world-class, incredible wrestling. He's good, and he's a good grappler. But now, that's from the wrestling standpoint. Again, I'm going to reiterate this, and this is a huge statement. Islam is so good at wrestling that he's going to go up a weight class and fight a guy that only wrestles in his fights, essentially. I mean, he does strike a little bit, but his primary is taking guys down, and he's so confident that he's going to go up to welterweight and do that to Bilal. Like, what do you think his confidence is in wrestling?
Right. No, you're 100% right. People are saying he could even go up to middleweight one day. Who knows? Islam is incredible. Now, go ahead.
So and then moving on to the striking, like, dude, Islam knocked out Volkanovski. You know, arguably one of the greatest featherweight dynamic strikers. You know, from the featherweight division. I know he was up a weight class, but he still knocked him
Yeah.
out, with a brutally. Like, Islam is not Habib. Islam is a hybrid of Habib with wrestling equivalents and superior striking. The only thing is I think Habib's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see, because it does seem as though Islam can win any way he wants. Tehran says in the comments, I can see Islam hurting Moicano standing. I was thinking about that. But I would imagine, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that the smart play from their corner is that we have the advantage both ways. There's a greater probability of getting hurt on the feet just in general from a lucky punch or a lucky strike versus being on the ground. So I would imagine the safer, more tactical play would just be to go for the takedown and do the damage there. What do you think?
I'm going to talk. So this is a great point, and so it's such an outclassed matchup for Islam. In my head, like, if it's just a pure striking match, he's going to make a dynamic knockout or highlight reel knockout, and it's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be what would happen. But in one of those exchanges, he could get clipped. I mean, it's a very small chance, but he could. Habib and those guys care so much about winning. They don't care about highlights. They don't care about going out there and proving a point and showing how much better he is than Moicano in striking. They don't care about that. All right. All they care about is leaving that cage with the belt, whether it's by decision, whether it's by knockout, whether it's by submission. They don't care about making these. Thank you. They don't care about making these highlight reel tapes. So when you dedicate your life to this, like they have, they're not doing it for highlights. They're not doing it for a video of a cool technique that everyone's going to go crazy over. Remember, they're doing it for themselves. They're doing it to prove to themselves that they can win. So I think if it was somebody like, I'll be honest, like if it was me and I was fighting somebody and I felt I was that much superior of a striker, like I'm here with an MMA coach, Roman, like if we're that superior, all right, hey, let's get this highlight reel knockout because we need a highlight reel. So when the UFC checks us out, we're willing to go on that because they're going to see this highlight and be like, oh, this guy's badass. Where Islam doesn't give a fuck about that. Like I've been in situations like that. Like I'm a superior striker. All right, let's get a highlight reel in this fight. And I just don't think those guys from Dagestan think like that. And all they care about is winning. And whatever the easiest and the safest route to victory is what he's going to take. I think he's going to get in there, take him down. I mean, look what Islam did to me, one of the best grapplers off the back in the history of the lightweight division, Charles Oliveira. Look what Islam did to Charles Oliveira. And again, I'm going to reiterate, to me, one of the best of all time active grapplers off his back. Islam took him down and made him look like a blue belt. Like Moicano will be lucky to get out of the first round.
I think so too. I totally agree. Okay, last thing before we move on, because this is pretty much, I was saying before when you were trying to connect to the Wi-Fi that this is unprecedented. As far as I can recall, we've had some late minute cancellations. We had that add-on within 4 hours. I mean, that was crazy. But for the main event, the day of weigh-ins, and you slide this guy in, it's just crazy. And also the fact that Moicano does have a fan base and he's got a following. Yeah, there's a massive disparity in skill, but this is pretty unprecedented. Last thing I'm going to say. What do you think that people are going to say? Let's assume Islam goes out and gets the win. How bad is this for his legacy? Meaning, how much better would it have been for his legacy to get the win over Arman than a late replacement against Moicano?
Oh, in talking about his legacy, like this win caps him as the most defenses at the lightweight division. So he'll be number one, but it's always going to be tainted. But I don't think he cares. And he's not like he's going to go and win his next fight too, and then it's going to be two wins above. I do feel this is a gift for him. I don't really understand. I think there's a bunch of other guys that they could have given an opportunity for that are probably training. Even though Mike Chandler just lost, fucking Charles Oliveira, like Charles Oliveira first. Call Charles Oliveira, get a rematch. Charles just beat Mike Chandler. Fuck it, man. He's coming off a former champion. Give him the short notice call.
He couldn't have made weight though. It was at the weigh-ins, right? Do you think he could have made weight?
I don't. Was it at the weight? I mean,
pretty much.
I mean, I guess if he had 24 hours, sure, give him a shot, or Mike Chandler, and then like
he said he's
Mike
there.
Chandler, like he's there, ready to replacement. Do I think he's deserving? Of course not. But Chandler beats Moicano.
Yeah, that would have been crazy if Chandler got in there.
And here's the other thing with the Chandler matchup to Islam.
Yeah.
Chandler has 100 times better chance of knocking out Islam than Moicano does because he might just go, you know what? here's my chance, and just rushes him and goes crazy
Oh,
and
yeah.
just starts winging wild shots. Like,
True.
I would have much rather enjoyed watching that, him trying to
Yeah.
win. I think Moicano is going to be a pussy in this fight. I think he's going to play very defensive. I think that he's going to be afraid. I think he knows in his head there's nowhere he can win this fight, and he's going up for the payday. I don't know where his head could be to like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna beat Islam in grappling. Oh, I'm gonna beat him in wrestling. Oh, I'm gonna outstrike him. No, it's just like there's just no way. So
Yeah.
Mike, on the other hand, is a animal, or some people say that they think he's a cheater too. Aaron's big on that. Oh, Mike Chandler's the biggest cheater in the UFC. Regardless, he's not afraid of anybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, look what him and Justin Gaethje did. Do you remember? I was in LA watching that fight, Justin Gaethje versus Mike Chandler. Dude, that's one of the craziest fights you'll ever watch. Like, we're talking about two Division I wrestlers that didn't take a shot almost the whole fight. They just stood and tried to knock each other out. And Mike Chandler's wrestling. I mean, I think he could probably avoid one or two takedowns in the first round. Or you just know Islam's going to shoot. Maybe he's looking for a flying knee. I would have rather watched Mike Chandler fight Islam and Moicano, because Moicano has about a .001 chance. Chandler has about a 1% chance.
Interesting. MMA Joey said Moicano, he gave a 1% chance, so maybe he'd give Chandler a 2% chance. Who knows?
Sure,
but yeah,
sure.
I think that you make a really good point.
And actually, I'll tell you this too. One more thing. I revoke that statement. I think he has a better than a 1% chance. I think he might have a 10% chance. 1 out of 10 times they fight 10 times and he can't catch him. I mean, 1 out of 10 times even, but Moicano has no chance.
Do you think Armin's next fight will still be a title shot, or what do you think? Or do you think the UFC pissed off at him and he's going to have to fight somebody else?
Think about that. He fucked a lot of people over, man. All the people that bought tickets, all the people that flew to LA to
all those Armenian fans bought tickets.
Yes. Came all the way to the US to watch their guy go, and he backs out the day of here. If he would have backed out a week ago or 2 weeks ago, if it did happen, depends on when the injury happened. But I don't know. I don't understand what he'd be doing, cutting weight to hurt his back. You know what I mean? He should be in the bathroom. He should be in the sauna. If he's doing mitts, yeah, I've done mitts for weight cuts. Like, it's very, very light. I just don't understand what I did hear of, and there's a video out there, and it's probably just a rumor, but that he was trying to do some kind of acrobatic to impress Nina Drama. And it's probably fake, but what if it's not? So I think the UFC is going to be like, time to take a back seat, because you had your opportunity. And, again, if it was a week or two ago, the UFC could have done some due diligence and found a good replacement. And, all right, hey, heal your back. But the night before, when you sent it to me, I thought it was a joke.
Well, listen to this. Somebody made a really good point. I thought about this pullout, and on top of it, if you remember, they wanted Arman to fight Islam last March or last spring in 2024, and he said no because it was too quick of a turnaround. So he already said no to the UFC. That's why Dustin Poirier got the shot, and then now this happened. So I wonder, maybe that might not be the case though. Maybe the UFC is fully understanding, hey, something really tragic happened, we totally get it, heal up. I mean, there is, I guess, that possibility, but I'm thinking, man, I don't know. I feel like that's going to be rough for him.
I agree with you 100%.
But, I guess we'll see. Okay, let's move on. We talked about this a lot. I guess I'm still curious to see it. And like I said, I think I'd be substantially less excited, if I didn't like Moicano so much. But the fact that he's so likable makes it somewhat interesting, and we'll see what happens. And I also want to see how dominant Islam will be. So that's an interesting question as well. Okay, moving on. Back to the co-main event, still intact, thank God. Now you talk about the discipline of Islam. Umar's got that same discipline. He's in the same camp, and he said this on the Full Send podcast. What do you do outside of MMA? What are your hobbies? Oh, brother, I have nothing else. It's just this. I have no else to do. We just train all the time. You're right. It's 100% true. So we got this amazing matchup. I know you were leaning towards Merab, and I'd love to hear if you change your mind, or I imagine you're going strong, but I'll say on the record one last time, I just think the same reason why you're picking Islam, with that just unbreakable discipline and full devotion to the sport, plus the team, the coaching staff around him, and you got Habib, but don't forget about Javier Mendez. I just don't see how, and then the tremendous skill set that we saw, the striking against Corey Sandhagen. It also feels like a situation where he kind of has Merab outmatched everywhere, and at best, maybe they're equal in the grappling department, maybe. But I even wonder if Umar has an advantage.
What about the gas tank department?
Yeah, gas tank. I think Merab is going to have that one advantage. So I think people are saying that if it goes long, they think that Merab can get it. So is that where you think he's going to get it done?
I just like a true underdog story, man. The line is set the way it's set for a reason. All right, Umar is incredible, and Merab's a huge underdog, and I guess just the underdog mentality in me that I just love being an underdog, and I love that pressure. I'm going with my teammate Merab.
And also, everybody says Merab's awesome. Oh, I can't wait to talk about your boy Jamahal Hill, because I think he's really redeemed himself. He went on the MMA Guru YouTube channel this week, had a great interview. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But he's boys with Merab. He talks about how he loves Merab and how Merab's just such a great guy. And I'm sure he is, man. He seems awesome. One last thing from Gal4 Productions says Umar is the most well-rounded 135er of all time. He's so good at everything. And he also mentions that, it is a quick Merab too. It's weird, man. They made Aljo and Merab do quick turnarounds for these new up and coming stars that
why though. You know why.
I know, but I know why. But how crazy is it that in such close proximity, these two guys who are best friends, they made them both do it? It's pretty wild.
I don't think it has anything to do with their friendship. I think it has to do with their style. Aljo's a grappler. For sure. Yeah.
No, I 100% agree, but I don't know if that's ever happened in the history where two best friends have that happen to them back to back, where they're kind of pressured into taking short notice fights because the UFC wants, I think, somebody else. That's the theory, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, this is going to be such a good fight. I can't wait. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about this because Jamahal Hill, man, I saw him in the MMA Guru podcast, and I thought was amazing in that interview, and he even talked about what he was doing. I don't know if I think some of the reason why he approached Alex Pereira, he didn't think it through. He just saw him and went. I think that. But he explained on the show, he's like, the reason why I did it, he's like, everybody's talking about it. Why else would I do it? Now this lines up a potential rematch with him. Otherwise, if I don't say anything, that this wouldn't be happening. People wouldn't be talking about me and clowning me to go and fight him again. So this is actually to my benefit. He mentioned that. He also seemed to have a newfound calm and quiet to him, and he even was talking about the fact that, yeah, man, the stuff that happened, I've let it go and I've learned from it. Kind of the stuff that you were saying he should, the mindset that he should adopt. And it sounds like he has that mindset. And that really made me think, man, I don't know. I feel like he's going to have the advantage in this fight and he's going to be favored. Does that say anything to you?
No, I mean it happened for so long. I mean, time will tell. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things to where you might. And again, I think that why everyone was clowning her was not for confronting Alex, because everyone knew why he did it. He was doing it for headlines, of course. But Alex punked him, and that's people weren't making fun of him for doing it. People were making fun of him for getting punked. So I think he has the wrong outlook. Oh, well, of course I did it for this. Of course. Yeah, but you got punked, Jamahal. And that's why everyone's teasing you. It's not because you did it. We all know why you did it. And it all makes sense. Everyone's talking about it. But I guarantee Jamahal didn't think in his head that he was going to get punked.
That's fair. Dude, did you hear at the presser, the crowd was chanting Shama?
I did.
Holy smokes. But to his credit, he got a huge pop. I mean, think about Reinier de Ridder, the one championship, who he's got some star power in his, but people gave such a reaction to Jamahal Hill. So you guys always say, whether it's positive or negative, as long as there's a reaction, that's a good thing. And Gal4 Productions does say Jamahal by brutal KO. Okay, guys, we got to burn through the rest of the show because me and Justin got to get to the face-offs very soon. Coming up to Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. Dude, I saw Kevin Holland on the Jackson podcast. Did you see this?
Mm-mm.
He was him and Rampage Jackson were going at it, because apparently Rampage made some comment to him a year ago. Kevin Holland said he wanted to fight Rampage Jackson. They were going at each other. Rampage was they were asking the question, "Hey Kevin, why do you talk so much during fights?" I think it's an ego problem that you have. He's like, "Oh, an ego problem. You think I got an ego problem?" And then he starts talking smack back to Rampage. They're going back and forth. He's like, "I'd like to fight you." He's like, "Young man, you don't want to fight me. Trust me." And he's like, "Oh, I want to fight you." He's like, "Thing you don't know about me, I fight everybody. I want to fight you. We should do it." He's like, "Trust me, you don't want this." He's like, "No, I'll do it." So it was
Rampage in his prime, but not now. Now he's just a fat old man.
That's what I wanted to ask you. That's why I wanted to ask you, because Rampage is so much bigger than him. So do you think Kevin Holland would smoke Rampage?
I don't think he'd smoke him. I think Rampage would have a puncher's chance in the first 2 minutes, and that's about it.
Right.
He's too heavy. He does, and here's something Rampage is notorious for: being fucking lazy. All his whole
Right.
UFC career, he always talked about how he just was an athletic specimen, and he just was just insanely athletic, and that's what won him fights. And he didn't train hard for fights. And I have a personal friend of mine actually that knows him really, really well, that they're really good buddies, and he would say the same thing: is he just was so powerful and strong and athletic. But look at his physique. You can look at a guy's physique in the UFC and be like, does this guy take training serious? And I'm not saying every single fighter's like that. Some people have bad genetics, but regardless, he never looked impressive physically. And from my understanding, from an insider that told me that he never took his training that seriously.
Fair.
And
Totally
again,
fair.
not
Okay.
to say he didn't train hard. Not to say he didn't train hard. I'm sure he trained hard, but taking days off, being inconsistent, being late, shit like that.
That probably was never on point. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, quickly talking about this matchup. That fight, that whole interview got me hyped for this fight. But I've watched some footage of I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Reinier de Ridder in one championship, and he's such a grappler and a takedown guy and a submission artist. I feel like he's favored to win. I think he's going to get Kevin Holland. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts, or are you not familiar too much with this?
I'm not too familiar with this guy. But if he's known for his grappling out of one championship, I mean, there's not a lot of great grapplers at one. But with this being said, Kevin Holland over the last couple of years, he's been in the UFC now for 5 years. We made our UFC debut together around the same time. He's a gatekeeper, man. And as much as I like Kevin Holland, the mouth, I love him talking shit in the cage. I love listening to him on the mic. He's really exciting. But let's face it, let's call a spade a spade. He's a gatekeeper. And they're giving this guy Kevin Holland as a debut fight to see where this guy stacks up in the division. If he goes out there and smokes Kevin Holland, he's going to be catapulted to the top. You know what I mean? Or maybe not to the top, but he's going to be catapulted into, oh shit, 2 fights away from a top 10 spot. He loses to Kevin Holland. All right, well, this is not really where we thought he was, and they're going to make the adjustment then.
Just like kind of Michael Venom Page. Yeah, very true. Very true. All right. Well, it is going to be an exciting fight no matter what. Amazing stack card. Last fight, not on the main card, but we got to talk about it. Last one, Payton Talbott. Actually, and there's one last thing we need to talk about very quickly. They released footage. They released a whole story on Payton Talbott on the UFC YouTube channel, which was so cool. It showed all his amateur fights, his first 5 pro fights before the UFC, where it's just like knockout, 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 just smoking people. And then coming contender series, and then all his fights were finishes. And then he finally, when he comes to the contender series, he wins by decision. And he was so bummed out. And then he walks out of the cage, and Dana White, you just set a record for contender series for most significant strikes landed in a fight. And he's like, really? I thought that was like a terrible, sloppy fight. And he's like, nah. He's like, I thought that was great. Then he got signed, and then we see what he's done now. But anyway, I love the backstory, so it was really cool. You guys got to check it out if you have a chance. Last thing, what's your prediction on this fight? Do you have any last words or any last thoughts?
I don't know anything about. Yeah, I don't know really anything about his opponent. I didn't really know much about Payton Talbott. I knew you were hype about him, so I've checked him out. I've done a little research on him. He's exciting. I like his interviews. He seems down to earth. I'm rooting for him. I think he has that gift of gab on the mic where a lot of people I think are going to flock to him. Again, I haven't really paid too much attention to his fighting, but recently, because you're so excited about him, I've been tuning into it when I see him on an interview, and yeah, I'm excited to see what he has to go. Like, I want to know if the hype you've gave him is real or not. So I will be watching this fight with some excitement.
I think he's the real deal. Okay, last thing we got to touch on really quick, and then we got to bounce. I don't have time to pull it up because we got to get out of here very quickly. There was footage released from Extreme Couture that I saw yesterday of Raul Rosas Jr. doing kickboxing sparring with somebody at your gym. I don't know who it was with. Just teeing off on him, throwing knee after knee, full on haymakers, like full on shots. And I didn't recognize the guy who he was sparring with. It has to be a professional. I mean, it had to have been, because he wasn't landing a lot of those big shots. But I don't know. I just want to know. I guess you haven't seen the footage yet, but what's your take when you see something like that? I imagine that could be grounds for getting kicked out of the gym, or does that stuff happen all the time?
Yeah, it happens all the time, man. It's we call them firefights, and yeah, unfortunately, it's just not. That's why I don't spar anymore, and that's why I don't go to pro practice. anymore at 35 years old, because you get these young kids in there and they think every round has to be a fight, you know, and they got to show how tough they are. And, you know, he's a young kid. He's in the UFC. He's an incredible talent. With that being said, a lot of times it escalates. So, like, I'll be like, all right, Josefa, we're going to spar. How hard do you want to spar? You'd be like, I want to spar light. It's like, all right, cool. Well, now you hit me with a big shot. And it's like, oh, you want to go? And, you know, it's funny because I've sparred one time. I sparred 2 weeks ago since my fight in May. It was the first time. And I'm telling the guys, hey, I'm just, you know, moving around, going nice and light. And this guy hits me with a big overhand left. And I just remember my blood curdling. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to fucking kill this kid. And the very next shot, I knocked him out. And where he falls back, hits his head. And I was just like, all right, bro, like, how hard are you trying to go? Like, we can fucking fight if you want. And, you know, it's just how it goes. It happens all the time. I mean, look at the very first round I did at your gym. You remember that? Like, I'm telling everyone, hey, I'm just here to move around. Yeah. And me and that kid got in a fight in the very first round, nothing else. You know, so I'm not going to say that maybe Raul also was in the right. You know, maybe this guy was talking shit.
Right.
Once I see who it was, I'll know why. Because there's 2 or 3 guys there's one that just got signed to the UFC. I'm not going to mention his name because he's a nice kid. But he's the worst training partner I've ever had in my whole life. Actually in the top 3, Kevin Lee being number 1. But
yeah.
And the guy's super, super tough, but he doesn't go light, and he will throw flying knees and he will throw elbows. I mean, he has like a little elbow sleeve that he wears that has a little bit of padding on it, and he'll fucking like trying to fucking take your head off. And yeah, he hit me the last time I sparred him. He hit me with a flying knee. I stumbled back into the fence, double legs me off my feet, gets on top of me, and just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, dude, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Oh, bro. Actually, fuck it. His name's Mateus. He knows he's an asshole in sparring, and he just got signed to the UFC. And the guy's a super, super cool kid. He's very, very tough. I tell him how much I hate sparring with him because he just doesn't have any control. With that being said, he's been injured in sparring a lot too because of it.
Well, there you go. Double-edged sword. Okay, guys, we got to bounce. We got to get to these face-offs. Thank you so much again. Sorry for all the delays. We really appreciate the people that showed up, sticking around and hanging with us. And we really apologize. Like I said, we do our absolute best to be really consistent with the time. It's just today when we're both traveling, it was just almost impossible to keep that time. But it is what it is. Thank you so much. Let's see what happens tomorrow. We're going to try and do a show tomorrow, or at least I definitely will at least do a video or 2 tomorrow for you guys. But let's go. UFC is back, better than ever. Still a huge event. Go.
One more thing.
Go for it.
Guys, check out big bummer day today, or maybe it was yesterday. Clay Guida being cut from the UFC. I made a tribute video to him. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time, making his UFC debut in 2006. He had 37 fights in the UFC. He beat BJ Penn, Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz. Like, his list of accomplishments goes on and on. Not to mention, he's one of the most humble and the nicest guys I've ever had the pleasure of fighting on the same card. Guys, check out my video. I'm hoping that Clay, I'm going to send it to him, and hopefully he shares it and we get some shout out for the 10-7. But guys, huge shout out to Clay Guida and an incredible career.
Let's go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.